So you can see with that example how I was starting to combine the muting and then releasing the string from the muting technique as well. So we get a sort of a bass line that actually breathes a little bit more and has some depth to it. So just to recap that, we're using the thumb usually to play the lower, thicker strings, obviously, and then the index finger is being integrated to play on the upper strings. So there's just octaves, and I'm just using the thumb, obviously, for the lower string. It's kind of an interesting technique. Like that. And again, it just gives you a whole different sound, because if I was playing this regularly, just normal fingerstyle, it's a whole different thing to... And that's great because you're getting all this just from your hands, not from an effects pedal, not from changing anything on the amp, but it's just right on the fly immediately here as you play. And this can be a great technique to use in the studio, different sounds. Also sometimes in a setting where you're wanting to emulate an acoustic upright bass. Let's say you're playing a walking line. And so on. You can get that kind of sound, especially like in a more old school kind of setting, like in an old time swing kind of feel. This can be great just for that. And I've used that in settings where I'm playing with a acoustic piano, for instance, or with a vocalist, and you're playing in a more mainstream jazz setting where normally they would expect to hear an upright bass, but it's really great if you can get some of that vibe with the electric. And the muting thing can really lend itself to that. Now, one of the disadvantages of working with just the right hand muting is obviously, even though you can integrate these fingers in, you still lose some of the dexterity, obviously, of being able to play with both fingers like this way around on the strings, you know. And sometimes that can be not always a bad thing because you're forced to simplify the lines and just really play like a core element of an idea. But another way to mute, and this is popularized particularly by Rocco Prestia, the bass player from Tower of Power, is to use the left hand, or your fretting hand, to mute the strings. So the right hand is playing normally, but this hand is now doing the damping. And this seems to be a muting technique that people utilize far less often, but it can be really effective. Now, obviously, if this hand is doing the muting, it's not playing in such a linear fashion. You're not really playing so many notes. Often it'll be a more static type of harmonic idea you're playing. If you listen to Rocco's lines with Tower of Power, you'll often notice he's playing a lot of stuff really based off the root or something of the line. And a lot of the motion is just really from the right hand, just playing really driving 16th note ideas. So let's say we're just playing on a C here. Now what I'm going to do is I put the first finger actually fretting the C. So that's pushing down on the fret, just behind the fret here. But what I then do is I rest the other fingers across the strings in much the same way as I just let this hand just kind of lay in a relaxed fashion on the strings before the bridge saddles. We're kind of doing the same here, and we're treating this as the bridge, if you like. So these aren't pressing down. They're certainly not fretting the note. They're just resting on the strings. So we're still going to get a sound of the C. So here's a C. Now, you can see? Totally different. It's a really different tone, and it's different to here. If I play, that's with the muting now here at the bridge. Now, listen to it here. To my mind, it's got more attack and a little more fatness when you do the left hand muting. So it's a really cool technique. And again, like I said, you can be playing a real up-tempo 16th note idea because that's coming from the plucking hand, the momentum of that. And this hand is just pretty static. So, you know, if you're playing something up-tempo, you see what I mean? So it's a great technique as well to be able to master. So that's fretted hand muting as well. And as you can hear, what I did was I actually can introduce some other ideas melodically, but what I'm doing is moving the whole hand. And again, check out guys who use this technique a lot, like Rocco, and you'll see that Rocco is moving his left hand a lot around the neck because he's maintaining this kind of position. Most of the lines he's playing, he's using really his first and second fingers to fret, and then 2 or 3 fingers sometimes to just deaden the note in front. So you'll see him going like that. You see how my whole hand moves, but I maintain that position. You see what I mean? The whole way. So that's left hand muting.